Has actually been blasting McCarthy as a Republican in name only, telling viewers McCarthy is a puppet of the Democratic Party. You can see it written out on screen. He also calls him a Democrat or an MSNBC analyst or a D.C. lobbyist with no real core.
Congressman Kevin McCarthy, a man who in private turns out sounds like an MSNBC contributor. We will have a Republican Congress led by a puppet of the Democratic Party. He's in fact ideologically agnostic. He's flexible. His real constituency is the lobbying community in Washington.
Carlson views McCarthy as a flexible stand-in, a political puppet who responds to power and will say what his puppet master demands. One day it could be the donors, another it could be Matt Gaetz, another it could be a Fox host. And Carlson's attacks have engineered a kind of meta demonstration of the alleged puppetry, with McCarthy making an unusual show of fealty to his on-air tormentor, maybe in the hope of never seeing a Fox News banner about being a puppet again, which is a very puppety way to try to avoid being dubbed a puppet, when you think about it. Just as McCarthy did rush to formally and publicly appease Trump after initially briefly criticizing Trump's role in the insurrection, he's now trying to appease an insurrection defender by offering him the strings to be the puppeteer of the Speaker of the House, which is not just any puppet. It might all be comically low-key pathetic if the stakes were not so high. And now tonight, we turn to a special guest who knows the politics and, in this case, the puppetry. A man who ran the Republican Party, even earning his own tribute puppet in a very different time right there on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Former RNC chair Michael Steele is here now. Welcome back.
Hey, good to be with you, Ari. Younger days, my friend, younger days.
Well, you know the politics and the puppetry. I mean, this is a fact.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know how those strings are oftentimes, woven together and how they should be cut at times. And you laid out such an incredible indictment of this speakership and the gentleman who holds the chair, because it really is at its core about, I want the power, give me the power, what do I have to do to get it, and what do I have to do to keep it? As has been reported, McCarthy's admitted, I promised Tuckums that I would do this. I promised them that I would give over this footage. So what else has been promised? I mean, I think we should all be bracing for that, because there's more of this to come. I also find it very curious. Clearly, these two individuals don't speak to each other, meaning Tucker and McCarthy, because McCarthy on January 6th said, I condemn this. This is awful. This is not who we are. And Tucker was like, well, these are just tourists.
Right.
What are you talking about? These are just tourists. So which is it? Were they just tourists or were they terrorists?
Yeah, and the courts, I mean, look, to your point, Michael, the courts answer. The courts have convicted the sedition. So people can have their take, their gloss, but both the physicality of what happened, which is on tape, now more of those tapes in Tucker's exclusive possession, and the legality of what happened. If we live in a nation of laws, the rule of law says, if it's a convicted murder, that's different than an act in self-defense. Those are different things. And whether or not you always agree with it, they claim to be reporting over there. I'm curious what you think of the politics as we showed, because not everyone may remember that McCarthy actually is trying to move Tucker closer to him, and he apparently thinks of all the issues in the world, this is the one to win Tucker over. Do you agree with that analysis, and why do you think he thinks that?
I agree with that analysis, because when you are feckless and are not grounded, I don't have to say that. Just look at the actions of the man. Look at how he's whipsawed within 48 hours from January 6th, within 2 weeks of January 6th, by wanting to appease the puppet master. So now he has a new puppet master that he's made a promise to. Here's all the footage you will need. So I think that analysis is spot on. Why? Because he doesn't want Tucker to come after him.
Right.
He doesn't want Tucker to talk bad about him on Fox News at night. He doesn't want the dollars to dry up, because here's a correlation that a lot of people don't get. When Tucker goes on and starts slamming the leadership and starts slamming, actions or individuals, that has a rebound effect on what those Fox donors are going to give. They're going to stop writing those checks. You're going to see a lag over the next 2 or 3 weeks from that in donations coming in from small dollar donors particularly. The larger donors, the mega donors, they're not watching Fox per se. Some do, but they're not taking Tucker seriously. They're playing a different game. So Tucker's universe is oriented around a couple of things. One, I don't need, not Tucker, but McCarthy's universe is anchored around, I don't need Tucker mad at me, right? He doesn't like that Chiron there. Kevin McCarthy is a puppet of the Democratic Party. That's a bad day for Kevin McCarthy. Whereas everybody else will sit there and go, okay, this poor fool, he doesn't get it, and ignore him. But he can't ignore him, because it ties into too many other things, money being one of them,
and let me jump
power,
in.
sustaining that power is the other.
And you say sustaining that power, which has become a cycle of lies. Look, if you want to be as historically broad as possible, clashes over lies and spin have been a part of communication politics for a long time. But it is not a tradition in the United States to have entire independent media channels completely lacerated over just saying the obvious, that Trump lost. And in the Dominion case that we've been covering, you see the lengths they had to go to deal with audience, which is to say a citizenry partly on the right, that expects their conspiracy theories and lies to be parroted back to them as true no matter what. Here's what, and again, this is one of those days where everything's coming together for you, Michael. But here's Jon Stewart, who also does his own factual analysis, but who did, of course, midwife your puppet, talking about this very issue nowadays.
As a cultural pathogen, Fox News is far more powerful, far more devious, far more pernicious, and has created far more damage than Alex Jones ever will. They have to lie, because they have to lie not just to keep the audience, but to keep this movement in power.
That's the final question, Michael, because if you only get people dancing to Margaritaville, then you have to keep playing Margaritaville. But if it's not the right song for the occasion or you don't like that song, well, tough. This is a lot worse than whether you're tired of Margaritaville, in my humble estimation. This is lie on lie on lie, where they can't get out from under it. And now it seems that Tucker is doing that. Your response on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But even those dancing to Margaritaville at some point realized my feet hurt. I got to sit down.
Okay.
Can I give me one? Let me take a few, right? And that's the problem with this. There's no one in that bubble who's saying, can we just take a moment here and recognize our feet hurt? We're getting, not because the shoes are too tight or you're tired of dancing per se, but because everybody's starting to step on your feet. Dominion, the courts, other institutions, both government and private, are beginning to do that. So at some point, and this is going to come home in the Dominion case, you're going to pay a price, right? The question becomes, what is learned from that price that's paid? That's
what's so fascinating when you tie it all together. I'm running over on time, but in a sentence, since we do have you here, you're not a puppet, but what does it feel like to have a puppet of your likeness?
It's kind of cool. He's sitting over here, always looking over my shoulder, you know.
He is there tonight, just out of frame. Is that correct?
It's just out of frame. That's right. It's just
I'll tell you what,
side here.
You post a photo at your leisure if you're willing, just to prove that he's still there after you get off air. We will repost, retweet, whatever, because it's good to know that you keep such a good relationship with your puppet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. Little Bibbly and I are doing really well.
Amazing. A little light amidst the darkness. Thank you to Michael Steele. Let me tell everyone, yes, sir, what's coming up.